What's going on, everyone? I'm Jaren, and today we are talking about Lee Cronin's The Mummy. In this story, the young daughter of a journalist disappears into the desert without a trace. 8 years later, the broken family is shocked when she is returned to them, as to what should be a joyful reunion turns into a living nightmare. Now I know what you guys must be thinking. This isn't the one with Brendan Fraser. And just like any other millennial, the 1999 iteration of The Mummy by Stephen Sommers was the center of the universe when it came to any sort of movie that was labeled The Mummy. I mean, with Brendan Fraser, who's the star-studded and Indiana Jones-influenced hero, as well as our antagonist, our iconic Imhotep played by Arnold Vosloo, that was the kind of movie that had everything for everybody. I mean, action, adventure, horror, humor, romance, and thrills. Little did I know that Universal Pictures has already begun their legacy of the Mummy movies back in 1932 with Boris Karloff as our iconic monster, and following that original movie they spawned about 5 more sequels where they followed another mummy called Karis, and that was played by a few different actors over the span of maybe 13 years. Even in 2017, Universal took a shot at the Dark Universe, a Marvel-style interconnected franchise planning on rebooting the classic stories of the Universal monsters and finally bringing them together. And just like 2008's Iron Man, we really kicked that off with The Mummy, with Tom Cruise as our star and Sofia Boutella as our main antagonist. They also got Russell Crowe here playing Dr. Jekyll, who acted as the glue between the movies, kind of like Nick Fury with the Avengers. And, you know, with its critical and negative reception, they shut down any further efforts to carry out the potential of this particular universe. Now, I know I've brought up my personal encounter with James Wan in ad nauseum, but when I did meet him about a year and a half ago, he talked about how his film company Atomic Monster and Blumhouse were going to be teaming up and taking a more refreshing and contemporary approach on these Universal legends. And so the spark that lit the flame was Leigh Whannell's The Invisible Man, followed by his take, his vision on The Wolfman. Lee Cronin, the filmmaker who definitely impressed many horror fans with Evil Dead Rise, has been brought on board to deliver a much more darker and horror-centered take on the iconic Universal monster. And after seeing the movie for myself, I can honestly say that, guys, I think we owe Tom Cruise's Mummy movie an apology. Starting out with the positives, the premise surely had me hooked. I mean, talk about a story where a family has undergone a misfortune where they lose their daughter that just vanished without a trace, and years later discover her in an ancient sarcophagus with no explanation as to why or how she came to be. While bizarre things begin to occur surrounding Katie's return, it is the mystery of what happened to her that drives the fear and the curiosity in this 134-minute runtime of a feature. And many horror fans, they're going to take a wild guess of where things are pretty much headed, but I thought it was pretty audacious for the team and the studio to take specific liberties that only was expected by someone like A24 or Neon. In other words, like Lee Cronin's Evil Dead Rise, a family's emotional turmoil is only the beginning of their suffering. And I gotta tell you, the kids are not safe in this movie, and that may come off very mean-spirited, but that does result into a lot of tense and frightening sequences that genuinely got under my skin. May Kalamaui, I hope I didn't butcher her name, but you might know her from Marvel's Moon Knight, had a very intriguing arc where she is investigating opposite of the Cannon family, where she's trying to figure out who kidnapped Katie, what they did to her, and why. And speaking of Katie, you got the actress Natalie Grace, who did a phenomenal job, and I definitely have to commend her with how physically demanding her role was, especially with all the movements, the tics, as well as having to deal with all the special effects that went into her look. When it comes to the makeup and the prosthetics, the practical and visual effects, this movie was fucking disgusting. And they did a few things with the Egyptian lore that I have not seen explored in other mummy movies before, which led to some very disturbing execution. There's a lot of carnage candy for horror fans to chew on, and some that definitely took me by surprise, including some toenails and a scorpion. What The Mummy was capable of doing did split my enjoyment because it really started to lean into familiar territory in other franchises, and that is where my positives end. And getting straight into my negatives, Lee Cronin, what are we doing? Once the main story leaves Cairo, the movie started wearing its influences on its sleeve and diminishing the identity it set out to adapt. It's basically Evil Dead meets The Exorcist. And I know that sounds like an awesome mashup and all, but at some point I did stop to ask myself and scratch my head, is this still a mummy movie? It's not that he did a terrible job, but if you put Evil Dead Rise and Lee Cronin's The Mummy side by side, they are almost mirroring each other as a brother and sister type of movie. I mean, it's almost like Sprite getting rebranded as Starry. You're not fooling anyone, we know they taste the same. In other iterations, The Mummy has manipulated people, animals, insects, and sand. Heck, they even brought the dead back to life, but my goodness. Katie comes off like Reagan from The Exorcist. Everyone else that's possessed moves, talks, and looks like deadites. Oh, and at that point, not only did I not care about the narrative that they were trying to carry out, but I stopped caring about the fucked up shit that was happening to the family only because they didn't have any real consequences. Even the ending of the movie, they were trying to have their cake and eat it too, trying to take a page out of the dark universe and kind of set up some sort of sequel, set up some kind of, aftermath of what's going to happen, but I just wanted it to stop. I wanted this movie to end. I mean, we have lost the plot, people. Going back to my accolades about the Carnage candy, while this movie did a pretty good job at grossing me the fuck out, they went for shock value at every turn and barely earned any of them. And what I mean about that is that there is a scene where someone is pulling out all of their teeth and no one questions it. By some divine miracle at the end of this movie, they have all their teeth back. And only a few days have gone by. They didn't just grow it out. They aren't veneers. Those are real teeth. I couldn't help but snicker consistently because every time the body horror with Katie got progressively worse, not once did they try to bring her to the hospital, not once did they try to get some kind of medical assistance with her. I mean, they were just dealing with it. They were just like, it's fine, everything's fine. Everything's falling apart, but it's fine. Oh my God. With the exception of just the one checkup they had with the doctors at the beginning of the movie, they just kind of conclude, hey, her vitals are fine, so we can just send her on home. No psych eval, no physical therapy, even though she looks dead as fuck. Overall, I think we'd like to extend our apologies to the Pet Sematary remake, as well as Exorcist Believer. Nope, never mind. That one is still garbage. I'd still rather watch this one. I mean, it's not necessarily a terrible movie, but I just couldn't help feel very cheated on and just so disappointed with this one. As much as I am looking forward to Radio Silence's version of the fourth installment to The Mummy with Brendan Fraser returning, it's not that this movie isn't the Brendan Fraser movie, it's that this movie was trying to become completely something else while trying to claim the name The Mummy, And I don't know, maybe this will warrant a second watch for me, but I gotta say, Blumhouse, you gotta get your shit together. Lee Cronin, stop copying your own work. James Wan, I'm definitely betting on you to deliver on that Creature from the Black Lagoon movie. Well, alright guys, that's all I got to share about that movie. Go ahead and check it out if you want. Look forward to more reviews. I'm Jaren Ugbanawag, and I want to thank you guys again for taking some time out of the day to hear me talk some movies. Take care, and I'll see you guys at the theater.
العربية ودورت ودخلت يمين مش بمزاجي والله ما اخترت طب اروح على فين